All right, my friends, today is November the 10th, is Monday, a bit into the New York session. Let's do the market outlook and plans for the week ahead. Before we get into the outlook, let's start off with the news events. On Thursday, we should have the CPI lining up, so definitely want to keep an eye out for that. As you know, I don't really care too much about which way the numbers come out, but I know it'll likely be a tradable event. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into TradFi. So let's start off with the S&P. Let's see where that lands us. So as far as I'm concerned, yo guys, hit that like and subscribe button for me. Appreciate it. We're still very bullish on this. I discussed us pulling back when we were in that 6,900 area towards 6,700, and we overshot that by a little bit. I either was thinking that we would pull back to 67 or much deeper. Obviously, it looks like the bids come back. So, a strong open off the weekly open from equities and from commodities. So it does look like we should have a bullish week, assuming this momentum persists. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that the opportunity, the dip that you were looking to buy has probably come and gone. So now, like I discussed, you're either looking to buy into the dip or DCA after the dip comes. I think that now you're looking to just DCA from here on out, expecting higher prices going into the end of the year. Let's go ahead and move over to metals. So just keeping it short and sweet on metals, right? Just a quick glance at gold. I wanted to see gold trade down into the 3,800. That's where I talked about I was going to start to buy up more. It looks like the bottom's already in on this, so it looks like you're going to be chasing is the name of the game with equities and metals right now. So I expect that the trend that has been pretty strong for the past several months on gold, I expect it to persist. I think that the new meta around gold is likely to, hang around for a while. So expect gold to trade up alongside equities. As you guys know, I'm a silver holder myself. I absolutely have intentions of starting the gold bag, but I've been looking for the opportunity to do that. Been long silver for ages now, for many years. So it's great to see that silver is doing well. I expect that, gold and silver are probably going to do really well alongside equities. So that's pretty much it for TradFi. Nothing crazy to add here, right? I'm going to continue to treat these like savings accounts and just, buy them when I have opportunities to do so. Let's move over into Bitcoin and start off with the core talking points around the macro. So first things first, I'm still a believer in the Bitcoin uptrend. I don't think that we're, the bulls are, clear waters by any means, right? I do think that there's still turbulence in front of bulls, but overall, it just doesn't make any sense to me that the macro risk trend is over right now. I think that equities and commodities are going to trade up, and I think that Bitcoin will trade up as well. So my core macro plan is still intact. It's been, a little bit painful, like the chop that we've had to endure, especially ever since 1010, right? The relative underperformance has been painful, but these things can change quickly. So macro, plan is still intact. One of the kind of key talking points, and depending on who you ask, you're either gonna hear people say that this makes a lot of sense, or maybe that this is a really low IQ take. I don't really care. I do think it's a low IQ argument, but honestly, I'm here for it. So it's basically the catch-up argument, right? You guys have already seen this. I've already discussed this many times before. So this is the relative performance from the tariff lows. And as you can see, this is one of the first periods ever where, Bitcoin has done really, quite poorly ever since 1010 in particular, right? So the argument for me is, if the end of the year is coming up and, not too far off, right? I'd love to see, I do expect all these assets are going to trade upwards. And what I'm hoping for is to see some sort of kind of larger move out of Bitcoin where it kind of catches up and does close out the year as the fastest horse. I doodled this. I didn't even know I had this saved. I doodled this for Twitter last night. And this is more or less what I'm hoping to see play out, right? Where Bitcoin returns to its all-time highs or probably even makes all-time highs later in the quarter, right? We see equities, we see metals, everything more or less trades up, but Bitcoin closed out the year as the fastest horse. That's what the expectation is. That's what the hope is. If we don't see Bitcoin return to the throne as the fastest horse in, the rough time frame is either in Q4 would be most ideal, and if it doesn't happen at all in Q1 either of next year, then Bitcoin, is in trouble from an asset allocation argument. So we'll address that when the time comes, but for now, all the big picture plans are still very much intact. Next point is going to be, waiting for that spark of momentum. So like I've been, shilling you guys on for ages, right? You focus on the benchmark assets and you play things safe until we get either a clear bottom or a spark in momentum. And that's definitely what I'm hoping for. If you've traded Bitcoin for a long time, you're not unfamiliar with this idea that, it's very choppy. puts people into a negative headspace, puts people into pressure and draws them down. And then you put in a God candle one day and you spark a trend. And this isn't something that happens every day, but if you traded Bitcoin for a long time, you know that every now and then it does this. So that's one of the key arguments that I'm waiting for right now is looking for that spark, or just looking for prices to ultimately trade lower before then, probably. That's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and discuss levels. So as far as levels go, my key focus points are going to be, from a resistance standpoint, I think that 106 is going to be, that's your local resistance. I think that 110K is going to be the most important level right now to look for bulls to reclaim. If you see 110K get reclaimed, that is reacceptance back into the previous range. And that's ultimately the core argument that we're looking for, right? 113K is going to be, a resistance point beyond 110, but which, you can obviously use as just additional confluence or your read around how you should manage your positioning. But definitely guys on 110K. As far as supports go, there's a local support, basically just under where we're trading at. Call it 104K. 100K even is obviously your major macro support right now that you should be focused on. It's a good segue into the medium time frame conversation, because that's really, really important right now. So first things first that I want to say is that we're either looking for a more clear bottom structure, which is this doodle right here, or an impulse, right? So if we were to get an impulse where we just aggressively traded through all the local resistances and then held and built a base higher, that's what we would be looking for as a risk on chase risk enormously kind of trigger, right? We've seen this many times before, and that's what I'm looking for, basically. So it should be pretty straightforward, right? We're looking for a structural shift or a strong impulsive move upwards. As far as levels go, local resistance where you're at right now at 106K, low volume node, there's a couple of VWAPs that are overlapping there. So 106K is going to be pretty strong resistance. 110K is going to be your end all be all resistance, and then we're looking at like 113 as a resistance as well. As far as supports go, the local support is going to be like 104K, right, and then 100K. So those are the core levels that you want to operate off of right now. But that's pretty much it, right? Medium time frame structure, especially, was not that great, but especially post 1010, it doesn't look great, right? There's no real arguments around that, right? So moving forward, I think that, I'm not really interested in doing a ton of medium time frame trading. If I am, it's going to be, on Bitcoin primarily, not really on altcoins. But yeah, I mean, arguments are simple, right? You're looking for a structural shift or an impulsive move. Until then, you should expect the structure to persist. This doesn't really conflict with my higher time frame thesis, but on medium time frame, I've got to trade off what's in front of me, and I am going to trade optimistically, but also objectively. We can move over to alts really quickly. So as far as alts go, I still am operating off of the same kind of core thesis that I'm not overly interested in fucking around with alts too much. There's a few alts that I've discussed with you guys that are noticeably strong, and I am keeping an eye on them, but my main focus right now is just I expect long-term alts to be shitty. I am interested in trading them here and there on the active side, but from a portfolio standpoint, I don't really want to add any alts into my port until I'm much more confident in Bitcoin trading higher. Until then, it just makes a lot more sense to actively trade altcoins, but then the only things to keep in your port are going to be the benchmark plays. So that's pretty much it for alts. Closing thoughts, let's yap about content. So you guys can obviously expect, market outlooks, live trading, working on some education here and there. Actually, 2 pieces that I'm kind of excited on that I started writing recently. So we'll be looking to turn those into videos here soon. But yeah, like heavy emphasis on focus on trading right now, right? Like I do want to get around to making more educational content because it's been a minute since I put a video out, but at the same time, I really want to focus on my trading, focus on discovering some new edges and pushing myself to kind of, lift my equity curve a little more aggressively, right? And my hope is that in the process of doing that you guys will just benefit by getting to learn with me. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to start actively trading alts a little bit more here and there. I've been really, kind of ignoring them. I don't want to add them to my port at all, but I do want to actively trade them. I want to keep pushing myself to actively trade Bitcoin and just see where things can take us. So that's it for me, guys. Good luck out there this week. Let me know if you have any questions. Cheers.